You might want to think about the purpose and the focus of the assessment and how you want to shine a light on particular areas. My name's Sally Ann. I've been an SpLD assessor for over 25 years. Subscribe to my channel and be the best assessor that you can be. Let's have a look at the report format in terms of what are the new features that we can see. So the first thing is that rather than there being two report formats, one for pre-16 and one for post-16, there's now one report format. And what you'll see within that single report format is that there is some separate guidance for specific age ranges. So the main things that are different are between under age 16 and 16 years and over. So you'll see in certain areas there is specific guidance for the age range, but that's all contained within this single report format. The second thing that you'll see is that all of these areas within the report format are supported by a rationale which has been derived from current research evidence. So it embeds our practice into current research. So it's a brilliant thing to do. Somebody said to me the other day, my assessment didn't go brilliantly at the end because the parent disagreed with what I was saying, and I could have done with some backup to explain things. And we have backup in terms of the fact that the decisions as to what's been included and why it's been included is very clearly explained in the rationale. So the idea is that you have a look at the rationales and feel free to change them into more accessible language, but they can be included at the outset of each of the different sections, and they provide context for the non-specialist to help them make sense of this section and why we're using it. And the way the rationales are currently written is not for that audience, it's for us as specialists. So we are certainly at liberty to have a read of the rationales and put them into our own words and then incorporate them into our assessment template. The third thing to notice is that there are essential components. So there is that you must include if you are considering a potential for a specific learning difficulty. So this allows assessors to really focus in on the bits that are really important and the stuff that we really do need to include. And it also helps us consider in what areas do we want to extend and look at a wider scope or a more detailed scope and a deeper dive into certain areas of relevance. So that is something to be aware of, that there are essential components, and then we may choose or not choose to open doors and expand and look at additional areas or those areas that we've opened the door to in more detail. And that will be dictated by background information, the age of the individual that we're assessing, etc. Just as a starter, let's just take on board the fact that there are essential components within the report format. The other thing to notice is that the overview is no more. We do not write an overview anymore. What we do is write a diagnostic decision, and that diagnostic decision is a clear summary of the report outcomes, but it's not intended to be potentially detachable. So it is a difference from our current overview, and we'll be looking at this as one of the components of the areas where we do need to adjust how we are writing our reports and presenting our findings. So we'll be having a look at that as part of the training, because there's a few differences to what you're used to if you're currently writing overviews in accordance with the requirements of the pre and post 16 report formats, as was or as is currently still, but we know that the change is going to happen. There is some flexibility in terms of the order that we can do things. So the presentation of some of the elements can be adjusted, and that's at your discretion. So the areas where we can think about the order in which we want them to appear in the report are language and reasoning, attainment, and cognitive presentation. And we are at liberty to move those around. We're not at liberty to change the names of any of the headings. Those headings are set in stone in terms of the terminology and the content that's associated underneath those headings. But the order in which we present those headings is potentially flexible or is flexible. And you might want to think about the purpose and the focus of the assessment and how you want to shine a light on particular areas as to the order in which you wish to present them. The other sections of the report, so if it isn't language and reasoning, attainment, or cognitive presentation, note the changes in terminology there as well, then they are set in stone, they don't move. So it's only those 3 bits that can flex and you can change the order. Why would you want to change the order, and in what circumstance would you consider changing the order? And the final main feature that's different is, instead of having a section called additional evidence and information in pre-16 or additional diagnostic evidence and information in post-16, we have this section which is now called extended investigation. And there are changes, particularly if you're assessing pre-16, in terms of what would be considered acceptable to be included in that section. So if you're a fan of particular checklists and particular ways of working to look at co-occurrence, then you really need to focus in on that one if you're a pre-16 practitioner. Post-16, no huge changes with regards to that. And we'll chat about visual difficulties as well and where that will sit. So they're the things to consider in terms of the main things to be aware of in terms of getting your head around the new features within the new report format.